rain is coming down today as the Eagles begin a 3-week stretch of road games. The New York Giants, they're up first. The Birds have been road warriors, the only remaining NFL team to be undefeated away from home. They'll be fueled this week by a dominating performance against the Titans. Another productive running back awaits in the Meadowlands in Saquon Barkley. It's an NFC East showdown in December. This is when it gets real. Welcome to the Kickoff Show, presented by Little Caesars. I'm Ella DiGiovanni, joined by Fran Duffy. This is your classic December football, Fran.
We've got NFC East here. It's early December. Really excited for this battle. The Eagles have played Washington. They've played Dallas. Now we've got New York on the docket.
I said this is when it gets real. Well, Fran, this is how real it can get. The Eagles can clinch a playoff berth today with a win or a tie or a 49ers and a Seahawks loss. So I know they want to go 12-1, but they also want to clinch the playoffs today.
That's the thing, is you always talk about having the end goal in mind, but you like all of these little milestones along the way. And the first big milestone, getting to the playoffs. Next big one, winning the division. We'll talk about that next week as the Eagles prepare to take on the Dallas Cowboys, but still have to take care of business today at MetLife Stadium.
Another week that the Eagles remain towards the top of the league in almost every offensive category. If they weren't running it down the throats of that Packers defense, they were throwing it through the air against that Titans defense last week. What do you think the plan of attack is going to be today against the Giants?
Well, it's certainly going to be handling the blitz. The Giants blitz more than anybody in the NFL. They play more man coverage than anybody in the NFL. So you've got to be prepared to handle pressure from Wink Martindale's scheme. That's going to be on Jalen Hurts. That's going to be on the offensive line. That's going to be on the running backs. That's going to be on the coaching staff. Everybody's going to be involved with beating the blitz. That's going to be at the top of the game plan here this week against the Giants. And a big part of that, getting the ball to your playmakers like that guy, number 6, DeVonta Smith.
Can we just give a shout out first to our social team for their hilarious memes all season? This is the post that announced Jalen Hurts won back-to-back NFC Player of the Week honors. A little ode to SpongeBob 1 week later. There he is, QB1. Back-to-back weeks, but so well-deserved, Fran.
No question. And I think when you look at Jalen, a lot of people will say that last week, maybe his best game in his NFL career, but ultimately the way that you looked at the way that he was able to carve up that Tennessee defense, he did an outstanding job. He did it from the pocket. Not a lot of RPOs, not a lot of frills. He just went out, took care of business. Just an outstanding performance there from QB1 against the Titans.
Well, here's what Hurts had to say about receiving this honor for the second straight week.
I mean, it's cool. I know it. It comes with a lot of hard work. I definitely acknowledge that. But I'm focused on the Giants. I'm focused on this week, and focused on preparing this week.
No surprise that that's how Jalen Hurts handled this honor. Very humble, and he's just looking towards the Giants. Well, last year at MetLife Stadium was statistically Hurts' worst game of his NFL career. 3 interceptions. He didn't even throw for 130 yards. He banged up that ankle in that game, and although he stays very even-keeled, especially this week when talking to the media about it, he's going into this game with a little fire. To really get it done in MetLife Stadium for the first time. Yeah,
one of a handful of guys in that locker room that might have a little bit extra juice here for this matchup. But I think when you look at Jalen Hurts, and again, just last week, a lot of analysts will say that was his best game. So the timing of this going into New York, where he had it was obviously not a great performance last year in this stadium. The way that he performed last week compared to that, what a climb. What a great improvement from Jalen Hurts over the last calendar year to where he was to where he is right now.
Well, he wasn't the only one that has received weekly honors. The Eagles have been getting it done. Defense, offense, special teams, they've all claimed weekly honors at some point. The Eagles started off strong, 5 straight weeks of Player 1 in NFC weekly honors, and now in weeks 12 and 13, Hurts went back-to-back.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's from all 3 phases. You're seeing special teams, offense, defense. Jalen Hurts, he was the NFC Offensive Player of the Month in the month of September to start the season off. So even though he didn't get the Player of the Week award until a couple weeks ago, very well accomplished in terms of what he's been able to do on the field, both as a thrower and as a runner here for this Eagles offense. And really just all 3 sides of the ball clicking in every major way on the backstretch of this season.
What a Sunday for the duo of Eagles wide receivers. One of them being number 6 right here on your screen. Over 100 yards for DeVonta Smith and A.J. Brown. Their performances showed this is a pick-your-poison offense, Fran. Today, they'll see a lot of man coverage from the Giants, opening up those one-on-one opportunities.
And that's the thing, is that you have DeVonta Smith and A.J. Brown, you're going to have confidence in their ability to win in those one-on-ones more often than not. Now, schematically, that's going to mean a bunch of different things as well. You might see a little bit more crossing routes to try and get those guys running away away from man-to-man, some of those deep routes. But DeVonta Smith, he's one of the best route runners in the NFL right now. And in year 2, for him to be able to say that, I think that just speaks to his skill as a player. He's just so much fun to watch on a weekly basis.
This week, passing game coordinator Kevin Patullo joined Fran for a tape study segment on Eagles game plan. He talked about the advantages Brown has when he's one-on-one.
When you get a one-on-one and you got your big-time guy one-on-one, especially on a vertical route, we want to take that shot. And he got one right there, and he was able to take a shot, and it worked out tremendous. Earlier, we got DeVonta in the post on one-on-one, and on that sail route, and then we got AJ on a one-on-one. So as many times as we can get one-on-one guys like that, helps the quarterback out tremendously.
Fans can watch the entire film breakdown on PhiladelphiaEagles.com, the Eagles mobile app, and all social platforms, as well as Eagles Game Plan that's produced weekly by Fran Duffy and airs Sunday mornings at 10 on NBC 10. That was such a great segment with Patullo. Kind of takes you a little peek behind the curtain. You really start to understand why this passing game has developed in the way that it has. But when you talk about these one-on-one matchups, what kind of opportunities could that also open up today for Quez Watkins and perhaps even Zach Pascal when A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith are going to be covered?
And that's the thing, is that you know that the Giants, number one, they are missing their top corner, Adoree Jackson. So everybody already gets bumped up a slot in their pecking order from a coverage standpoint. So when you're DeVonta Smith, that's great. You're probably not going to see Adoree. You're not obviously not going to see Adoree Jackson. You're probably not going to see Fabian Moreau, who has been their number one corner on the outside with him out of the lineup. So ultimately, what that means for everybody, you see Jack Stoll, you see Grant Calcaterra, you see all your running backs, everybody involved with this offense. You're going to get a little bit of a boost here against a Giants defense that's just been depleted by injuries over these last few weeks. And I think ultimately when you look at what Kevin Patullo was getting to in a lot of that segment, and he was awesome, Ella. You mentioned how good he was. He was just so instructive, and he gave us a on-set demonstration of A.J. Brown winning with his late hands technique. He talked about DeVonta Smith and his ability to carve people up, but also the confidence that Jalen Hurts has in his guys to go up and win in those one-on-one battles. When you have those two guys that we see on our screen, number 6 and number 11, you're going to feel good when those guys are lined up one-on-one. And in this game, there's going to be a lot of one-on-one opportunities for those two players.
Buckle in, Eagles fans. It could get explosive at MetLife Stadium today. How about Miles Sanders, huh? He's chasing 1,000 yards. It would be his first 1,000-yard season. He's at 924 right now, 9 rushing touchdowns. He's setting career highs in rush yards, rush touchdowns, and rushing yards per game. How do you see him fitting into the game plan here today?
Well, the opportunity is going to be there for Miles Sanders to create the big plays, the explosive runs in this matchup. The New York Giants right now, dead last in the league in explosive run rate, according to Pro Football Focus. That means they give up the highest percentage of 10-plus yard runs in the NFL. 17% of opposing runs go for 10-plus yards, Ella. Miles Sanders, the ability for creating those chunk plays, that's going to be there in this game, not just for him, but for Boston Scott, the giant killer, right? We know what he has done over the course of his career against this team. Kenny Gainwell, and of course Jalen Hurts. Big plays in the run game. I think they're going to be in store here for this Eagles offense.
You got to remember, too, if this rain keeps coming down, they may be looking to keep it on the ground as well. As we bring in these offensive starters, it is the 4th straight week without tight end Dallas Goedert. He has a chance to be activated off the IR next week. We won't know more information on that until next week begins, but another day for Jack Stoll and for Grant Calcaterra, perhaps even Tyree Jackson, to continue to kind of fill in for him in Goddard's absence.
Yeah, those guys combined at the tight end position for 60 yards receiving last week. We saw explosive plays to Jack Stoll and to Grant Calcaterra, both the same route, the little seam route right down the left hash mark against cover 2. So Jalen Hurts showing improved confidence in those guys to create some big plays. And we know all of them can contribute in their own ways. I know Tyree Jackson, the athletic tight end, who's probably got the 3rd most amount of reps since Goddard's been out. He hasn't been targeted yet, but he is a really important part of the offense when he's out there because of his position flexibility. He lines up out wide. He lines up in the slot as a wing. They'll put him in the backfield. They'll line him up in line. And that versatility allows all of the other pieces to be able to move around as well. It's not like you can just pigeonhole him and say, oh, he's just an outside the numbers player, or oh, he's just an inline guy. The versatility of all 3 of these players, very, very important to everybody else that's involved catching passes from Jalen Hurts.
Well, Jalen Hurts, he had all kinds of time on Sunday to get the ball out. If the offensive line isn't responsible for getting over 300 yards on the ground one week, their pass protection leads to success like we saw last week for this Eagles offense. What do you see kind of the matchup being, the advantages this Eagles offense has over the Giants defense to either pick their poison? Do we keep it on the ground? Do we go through the air? Are we going to see a little bit of both?
I think we will see a little bit of both. I think the weather could play a factor. To your point earlier, the run game probably more of a focal point if the weather does keep up this way where we see the torrential downpour. But Jason Kelce, the guy on our screen right there, he's going to have a big matchup here against Dexter Lawrence, the nose tackle for the New York Giants. He is big, stout, powerful. He leads their team right now in run stops. He leads their team right now in pressures. And honestly, the matchup of the Giants defensive front against this Eagles offensive line is probably the best in this game. The Giants, that defensive line is their biggest strength from a roster construction standpoint. I mentioned Dexter Lawrence, but they've got two young edge rushers as well. Kayvon Thibodeau, top 10 pick this past spring out of Oregon. He's going to be matched up most of the game against Jordan Mailata on the left side, and Thibodeau is starting to come on. You're starting to see the light turn on a little bit there for the rookie first-round pick. And then Azeez Ojulari, he set a Giants franchise record with 8 sacks last year as a rookie. He is a guy to keep an eye on. He's missed most of this season so far with injury. He came back last week against Washington. He had a sack, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery late in the game as well. He lines up inside. They move him all over the formation. You've got to keep an eye on Azeez Ojulari in this game. That's a big matchup here. This Eagles offensive line against the Giants defensive front.
Well, from one line to the next, let's go to the Eagles defensive line. 16 sacks last week against the Titans. They got it done up front, of course, holding Derrick Henry to 30 yards on the ground. Now, when they game plan today, of course, you got to talk about Saquon Barkley. He's already eclipsed 1,000 yards this season. But Daniel Jones, a very mobile quarterback, he's having his best season so far on the ground.
Yeah, no question. And he's also taking care of the football too, Ella, when you look at Daniel Jones. He is playing better football right now than he's played at maybe any point in his career. But getting back to this Eagles defensive line, I think the template, the formula that was on display last week, just carry that over to this week's game plan. If you're able to stop the run on early downs against the Giants, they want to run the football. They want to play ahead of the sticks. They want to be able to move the ball on the ground. They are missing a bunch of receivers. So if this Eagles defensive line and that defensive front can stop the run the way they did last week against Tennessee, it's a little bit of a different flavor. It's not just Derrick Henry. Daniel Jones is their leading rusher last week against Washington. You have to stop both Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. You stop both of those guys, get to 3rd and long, and then you can eat against this Giants offensive line. There are holes up front there that I think the Eagles can take advantage of.
Daniel Jones has performed well under pressure this year. He hasn't thrown an interception when facing pressure, but the Philly defense, they have recorded 7 interceptions when applying pressure this season, which is the most in the NFL. So if they can get to Daniel Jones and really try and rattle him, he has been playing well under pressure, but maybe that changes here today.
And remember, this is a Philadelphia Eagles defense that had created a turnover in every game this season until last week. So you know they are itching to get back in that turnover column in the box score here against the Giants.
Well, the Eagles team is the only defense that has 5 players with 5 or more sacks, one of those being Brandon Graham. He was named the Eagles' Walter Payton Man of the Year award nominee. He spoke with reporters this week about what this honor means.
It was something that just caught me out of left field because I really just didn't expect any of that. I'm thankful that the Eagles nominated me, seeing that in me. It just made me want to roll my sleeves up and just keep going, just keep being me, because you definitely don't know who you touch in moments of just, giving your time. And that's all I was doing, just giving my time in times where I felt like it needed, I seen fit, and I'm just thankful to have this moment right now, honestly.
BG, the longest tenured player on this team. This is the most deserving player I could think of, Fran. I've worked with him for quite a few years now, and I'm sure you receive these questions outside the building all the time of who's a player that you really enjoy working with. BG is always at the top of my list. You see his big smile and you hear his famous laugh, but that is who he is every single day, in the building, outside the building, on the practice field. He's so genuine and so kind. This is the biggest honor, but the most deserving honor for BG.
Yeah, you're going to come across professional athletes that, sometimes what they show on camera is different with who they are when the lights are not on. That is not Brandon Graham. As you mentioned, he is the genuine article. He is everything and more, and just one of the most, the word you use is perfect, genuine people that I've come across. I got here in 2011, Ella, and we got to remember, it was not always sunshine and rainbows for Brandon Graham here early on in his career. He had that injury as a rookie. He was constantly being compared to Jason Pierre-Paul and to Earl Thomas. He had scheme changes, position changes. He was a backup. They were signing free agents, and he got sent to the bench, and he just continued to put his head down, go to work, and all along the way, he was impacting people's lives, even just spending a little bit of time. He mentioned in that clip, just giving a little bit of time from myself, and the impact that had on people like Chase Merriweather and Matt Helm, some people that you'll see in a piece that was put out from Eagles Entertainment, and just the way that he's able to impact people's lives. He's just, he is awesome, and so happy for him that he was able to get this award this year.
When he wrapped up his media session in the locker room, he said, "Win or lose, I'm just so honored to even be nominated." And then he looked at everyone and he said, "But let's get this done." In typical Brandon Graham fashion, he still wants to win.
Exactly.
That's just who he is to the core. Well, as we bring in these defensive starters, Avonte Maddox this week, his 21 practice window opened after he got off the IR dealing with that hamstring injury. Although he's not listed as a starter today, we may see a little bit of him in this game. Now, we spoke with him in the locker room this week. He was in good spirits. He said his hamstring was feeling pretty good. He started running last week, and it was just a matter of seeing how things were feeling, how that hamstring was holding up through practice through the end of the week. So although he's not listed as a starter, we probably expect to see him here today.
Yeah, I would expect to see a good amount of him. Remember, last week, Jordan Davis made his return, and he only played a handful of snaps. And so we'll see if that's the case here for Maddox. But I will say, he is so important to this Eagles defense. That group, the back seven, did a great job. Josiah Scott had his best game yet last week against the Tennessee Titans. But having Avonte Maddox in there is so important, not just for the corners, but for the safeties, the linebackers, the SAM players, everybody involved. Run game, pass game, blitz game. Avonte Maddox has a huge part in this Eagles defense.
Number 24, Mr. James Bradberry. He'll make his return to MetLife Stadium today. He spent 2 seasons with the Giants. They released him this past offseason. He had plenty of questions coming his way this week about what the game will mean to him. He kept it plain and simple.
11-1. So really, I've just been focused on playing for the Eagles. I really haven't been worried about the Giants. But I am excited to go out there and play a divisional game and compete and hopefully get a win.
Although James Bradberry was very humble and professional about returning to MetLife, Darius Slay, on the other hand, was not. He said, "I want to kick their butts for James Bradberry." He said, "I'll never understand why they let Bradberry leave that building, but I am so glad they did." I think Eagles everywhere are glad James Bradberry is playing on this side of the field today because he has been a lockdown corner all season long.
Yeah, I know Slay has been banging that drum since like week 2, week 3 this year in post-game locker rooms and yelling at the media like, "Oh, why did the Giants let this guy out the door?" But Bradberry's had a great season so far. I would expect that to continue against a Giants receiving core that, they've got some new faces in there, but their number 1 pass catcher, Darius Slayton, he will know pretty well.
Yeah, he leads the Giants with 566 receiving yards, just 2 receiving touchdowns. After Slayton, no other Giants player has more than 300 receiving yards. So it could be a big day for that secondary, and then putting a lot of pressure up front to stop the number 1 weapon in Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, stopping Saquon is going to be a big part of this game. I mentioned that they're trying to replicate that formula from a week ago against Derrick Henry. They are different backs. Derrick Henry runs a little bit harder than Saquon Barkley, but they are built very similarly in terms of their body mass and how much power they've got in their lower half. So I think ultimately when you look at stopping Saquon, stopping Daniel Jones, that will be a big part of a victory. Ella, when you look at the way that this defense played last week, Derrick Henry, for the first time since 2019, so 3 seasons, he had not had a game where he didn't break a tackle. He did not break a tackle last week against this Eagles defense. And so many one-on-one opportunities, not just for TJ Edwards and Kaiser White and Javon Hargrave, but Darius Slay got on the ground one-on-one. James Bradberry, Josiah Scott, Marcus Epps, Reed Blankenship, all those guys contributing in so many different ways. This defense is hitting on all cylinders right now.
Well, Hassan Reddick, he has the Giants number a little bit. He holds the record for most sacks against the Giants in a single game. It was week 14 of 2020.
Right.
Reddick was playing for the Cardinals when he sacked both quarterbacks who played that day, Daniel Jones and Colt McCoy, for a total of 5 sacks. So if I was Daniel Jones, I'd have my eyes wide open for number 7 coming his way.
And the matchup to watch is Reddick going up against a rookie first-round pick, Evan Neal, who just came back recently off injured reserve. Neal had a little bit of an up-and-down start to his career before getting hurt. He was solid last week against Washington, but that is a matchup I think the Eagles continue take advantage of. Reddick going up against the rookie right tackle, Evan Neal.
I think this Eagles defense as a whole, we've seen grow so much in confidence, even just the past 3 weeks, shutting down Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry, another big challenge here today, but they've proven that they can shut down every part of the football field, whether it be up front and some of the highest producing running backs, or whether it be in the passing game and shutting down guys like Justin Jefferson earlier in the season. They can do it all, and that just breeds confidence, Fran.
And what they've done is they've gone into any given game, and whether it's Justin Jefferson or Derrick Henry or, insert player here, they have done a great job of saying, you know what, whatever your number one weapon is, we're going to take that away and we're going to make you play left-handed. And that's been one thing that has stood out to me, especially over the last month and a half. This defense on film, so much fun to watch because everybody is doing their job. The front is getting after the quarterback and stopping the run. The linebackers are doing an outstanding job both playing forward and in reverse. The secondary, they are playing outstanding football with their zone match concepts and passing off routes and forcing the quarterback to hold on to the football, obviously creating turnovers at an exceptionally high rate. So this defense, one of my favorites to watch in the NFL.
All right, as we zoom out, Fran, and get Eagles fans ready for a big NFC East matchup, what are your 3 things to watch?
Well, number one, I think this Eagles defense and this offense, really, if they can get off to a fast start, force the Giants to get into a hole. I mentioned, you want this offense to play from behind the sticks, get them into 3rd and long. But as a whole, this team, the Giants, they don't want to be playing from behind. So if the Eagles can jump out to like a 2-score lead, one of those patented first half jumps that we've seen from this group, that will lead to a victory here in this game. Number 2 is confine Daniel Jones to the pocket. Keep him contained. They love to roll him out on the play action bootlegs and move the pocket, get him away from opposing pass rushes, but also give him the ability to scramble and take off as a runner. He always has the green light to go, and they design a lot of runs for him, much like what the Eagles do with Jalen Hurts. And so keeping Daniel Jones contained, force him to beat you with his arm, that will go a long way towards an Eagles victory. And then the last thing, we mentioned it earlier, for Miles Sanders, Jalen Hurts, and the rest of that running back group, make sure you can create some explosive plays in the run game. Ella, the Giants love to play with not just 5 DBs, 6 DBs, but 7 defensive backs. They played 21 snaps last week against Washington with 7 DBs on the field. If they come out with that personnel grouping against this Eagles offense, Jalen Hurts, that group, they're going to make them pay on the ground.
The team is heading into the locker room after their leader, Jalen Hurts, broke them all down. Now, when you look at this matchup, of course, it looks like the Giants just don't have enough weapons offensively to beat this highly productive Eagles defense, but they want this one, Fran. There's going to be a little extra juice. They tied with the Commanders last week. They've had a great season, an unexpected great season. Brian Daboll, new head coach in New York, has really changed the culture here, but the Eagles might want it just a little bit more.
Yeah, obviously this means a lot for this Eagles team, and I think when you look at this passing game for the Giants, the attrition has really gotten to them. Darius Slayton, you mentioned, their leading receiver, just under 600 yards coming into this game. He was like their 5th or 6th option on the depth chart coming in. They lose Kadarius Toney in a trade. They lose Sterling Shepard to injury reserve. Wan'Dale Robinson, rookie 2nd-round pick, he's on injury reserve. Kenny Golladay has not been able to get into the lineup. So they are leaning heavily on Slayton, who was in danger of not even making the roster back in the summer. Daniel Jones does have some faith in him. He has created some big plays against this Eagles defense before, so you got to keep an eye on him, especially with his speed. But yeah, I think that the Eagles defense, they're going to outweigh the Giants in terms of a talent standpoint in this game.
Let's head to MetLife Stadium, where we welcome in Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, who joins us live. Dave, the identity of this Eagles offense is that they can win in a variety of ways. It's the versatility that has made them so unstoppable. Now, you've been around this team for a long time. How does this offense rank amongst others?
Yeah, it's getting there, Ella, and the Eagles have been very impressive, and maybe the versatility is unmatched. But I do want to remind people that in 2004 and 2017, those offenses were outstanding. 2017, the Eagles had 7 30-plus point games in their first 12 games and 6 in 2004. So the Eagles, numbers-wise, not quite there yet, but their consistency in scoring has been outstanding. Only 1 game this year under 20 points, and the giveaways really kept down. Now, today will be a challenge. As the team leaves the field, the weather is really picking up. The rain is starting to come down a little bit harder. It's getting just a little bit colder. So I think today will be challenging against an interesting Giants defense that they don't do a lot of things well, but they have recovered 11 fumbles, and they've only allowed 20 points per game. So we'll see which Eagles offense comes out, the one that wants to run the football or the one that wants to attack some winning matchups in the secondary.
Definitely looks like some cold, classic December football weather right there,
Yes.
Dave. It's always tough, though, against the Giants, especially in MetLife Stadium. It was last year's 13-7 loss and Hurts' 3 interceptions. Kind of a turning point. You and I were in Hurts' press conference this week. He kind of deflected last year at MetLife. Did you see that game kind of be the fire?
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting, Ella. The reaction after that game, a very, very disappointed team, of course, and one that was immediately accountable for giving that football game to the New York Giants. Since then, the Eagles have lost 2 regular season games. They've been outstanding in ball security. So I really think that game was a turning point for this football team. And Nick Sirianni on Friday talked about a photograph of Jordan Mailata consoling Jalen Hurts after the last pass, the incomplete pass, and he's got it displayed in one of the meeting rooms, and it really kind of shows to Sirianni how the team cares for each other. So a very selfless group that I really believe, when we step back and take a look at the big picture, that game was a very important lesson for the Eagles and a turning point in Nick Sirianni's, almost 2-year program now. So a big one there. Let me just finish with this real quick note. Somebody in the Giants just told me that they expect, we'll see if it happens, they expect Saquon Barkley to be used in a limited basis today. The neck injury combined with a really important game against Washington next week. We'll see how good my source is, but something to watch for today.
That's why they call you the Eagles Insider, getting us all the inside scoop. That was your Eagles Insider, Dave Spadaro, live from MetLife Stadium. Well, in this week's Mini Mike segment, players were asked which teammate would they cast a Pro Bowl vote for in this week's Social Spotlight, presented by Ponley Hockey.
So who on the team are you casting your Pro Bowl vote for?
I mean, it's basically the whole team.
Jalen Hurts, MVP.
Jay Hurts, man. Dude's been balling. All 3 Batman.
AJ Brown, Smitty.
Joe Mulatto.
Definitely Jason Kelsey, Isaac Somalo, Landon Dickinson, Lane Johnson,
Dallas Goedert. Miles Sanders.
Sip, Rick. Shoot, the whole D-line, the whole O-line.
Let me pull out my D-line list.
Just say all the D-line.
Let's keep going.
Me, Fletch, BG,
Hassan, Sweat,
TJ.
I repeat, AJ Brown.
Mr. Consistent himself, James Bradberry.
With Slay, my counterpart.
Darius Slagum.
Marcus, Chauncey, Reed.
Kaiser, TJ.
That's the whole defense. Yeah, I know.
How about we throw the whole Eagles team in there?
Can't we just have the Pro Bowl team be the Philadelphia Eagles?
It's the whole team.
And Coach of the Year should be Coach.
That's about it. Short list.
The Kickoff Show is delivered by Little Caesars, proud partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. Order online during the Pizza pregame and get it delivered or pick up in store in the Pizza Portal. Pizza. While Eagles fans, to cast your vote and send your favorite Eagles players to the Pro Bowl, visit PhiladelphiaEagles.com or on Twitter, use that hashtag Pro Bowl vote and tag or write the player's name. Sounds like Eagles players have a lot of teammates they want to see in the Pro Bowl this year.
Yeah, the Eagles fans can get busy right now and head on over to NFL.com. Make sure that they submit their votes and go to social media. Obviously, you can vote for your favorite players for the Pro Bowl.
Let's do it. All right, Fran, X's and O's, take me there. What's your Rico extra point?
Well, we know that this Giants defense, the identity is blitz, blitz, blitz. And let's take a look at what the Eagles can do to combat that. Because when you go up against Wink Martindale, and he has been a defensive coordinator in the NFL now for a long time, not just here in New York for this first year, but also with Baltimore, he sends a wide variety of blitzes. It's very similar to like a Rob Ryan. It's a lot of man coverage behind it, though. So nickel corners, linebackers, safeties, outside corners, everybody involved. So the Eagles' answer against the blitz, historically this season, it's been with wide receiver screens. They lead the NFL in screen pass attempts against the blitz. So, yeah, we will see wide receiver screens in this game. We will also see the quarterback run game. What we'll see with Jalen Hurts is he likes to spread the defense out. He'll move the running back out of the formation and put a lot of stress on you defensively and then keep the football on the ground. They'll also use the read option, the RPOs, all of those different tools in the toolbox. But the big thing we've seen over the last month and change, Ella, those one-on-one battles on the outside, DeVonta Smith and A.J. Brown. Since the Eagles have returned from their bye week in Week 8 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, no one in the NFL has created more explosive passes against the blitz than Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles, and a big part of that, A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith. If you are going to blitz this Eagles offense, you better be able to cover on the back end. That is the challenge for the Giants defense in this game. That is an area I think the Eagles will exploit in this football game. It's not just screens. It's not just QB run game. Downfield, bombs away from Jalen Hurts to DeVonta Smith and A.J. Brown.
Well, before we go, here's a short clip from the full-length video of Brandon Graham learning he was the Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee.
Brandon, you're here under the guise that you're doing a press conference, and in some respects, you are. But there's a bit of a spin on this one. Everyone in this room has been impacted by your generosity, your inspirational nature, and the pure joy you exude in life. And while they do have questions for you, I think you'll enjoy hearing their stories the most.
I don't know if you realize how special you made me feel that day.
In my fight to walk again, you brightened up a very dark time in our life.
I remember wanting to be just like you.
Our family is eternally grateful for what you did.
To be on this journey with you, to experience all of the love that you receive from everyone, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
You can catch the full video on PhiladelphiaEagles.com, all our social platforms, but you got to bring the tissues for that one.
I mean, real tears at my desk watching that one. I was crying when this one got put out. Kudos to Chris Barletto from our Eagles Entertainment Group for putting that out there, putting that piece together. And I think, again, it just speaks to Brandon Graham and just the interactions that he has with people. A lot of those, the people that you see in that video, when they first met Brandon, that was not under the lights with cameras rolling and a setup kind of thing from a PR stunt standpoint. That was Brandon just going out of his way to reach out, take a minute or two to try and make somebody feel better, and the impact that those words and those moments had, you just have to watch the video to enjoy.
So well done. Well, that'll do it, Eagles fans, here on the Kickoff Show. It's time to rewrite the Meadowlands narrative. Please join us on the postgame show immediately following the game. As always, the great Ike Reese will be in studio too. Can Hurts deliver another Player of the Week performance? Can the Eagles defense put a stop to yet another high-level running back? Enjoy the afternoon, Eagles fans. Thanks so much for watching, and go Birds.